Where did you put the Zoom link, by the way?
In the email,
Most recent.
Yes.
You told them.
it's the same Zoom like every single time, so you can choose any email that I've sent before.
It's so.
What?
For the second.
Thanks.
September 20th.
We should be going live now, yeah.
Okay, we're live. Cool. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that the Wilfrid Laurier University Students' Union operates on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. We have one regret today, and that's Director Russo for an approved regret. We are missing Director Spitzeri, but he,
No,
oh. Where?
we're
Oh, there he is. Sorry, never mind. I just couldn't see you. So with the exception of Director Russo, everybody is here. Do we have any conflict of interest to declare? Okay. As I see none, we will move into the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion that the Board of Directors adopt the agenda as presented? Director Sloan and Director Baldinelli. Any questions, comments on that matter? Okay, as I see none, we'll now move into voting. Any opposition? Abstention? All those in favor? Motion passes 0 to 11. Thank you so much. We will now move on to comments from the Chair of the Board and CGO. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we got today's meeting underway. Really appreciate your presence here. Thank you all for attending the previous election meeting. I have had a discussion with the two new directors, kind of gave them a mini governance boot camp since the last meeting. I have tried to make sure that they're kind of up to date with the matters involving the board. That's it from me. On to comments from the president and CEO.
Megan sends her regrets, but I'm here in her place. She had a last minute family emergency, but she sent me her notes. So the first thing is that there's an orientation week volunteer appreciation event Monday, October 16th. So she wants to know if you guys are able to move the meeting to 5 p.m. because buses leave at 6:30 for the event. And she recognizes that there's some directors who were orientation week volunteers who were invited. So throwing that out there for her.
We'll put a pin in that because there's going to be a comment that we'll be discussing later. Sorry. Any other? We'll move it at the end. Go ahead.
Okay. Next point is that she wanted to say she's sitting on a hiring panel this week for the manager of business development and financial strategies for student affairs. She wanted me to let you know that it's a really interesting role.
Cool.
And the last one is that she wanted to say on my behalf on here is that I added everyone to the volunteer discount program we have. It's on the nest with your My Laureate emails. There's a lot on there right now, so I recommend looking at it. That's all she has.
Awesome. Director Corey, I see your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, just clarification on that. Wow, that was, anyway, sorry, you added to, that was a personal comment, right? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
No, it was in the notes.
Okay, that's all good on the kind of governance operations split. That's okay budget wise and everything.
Yes, that's fine on both ends.
Okay, cool. That's all I had.
All right, any questions, any other questions for the president and CEO? Cool, as I see none, we can now move into comments from the executive director and COO. He's not here.
Phil does not have any comments.
Bill does not have any comments.
No.
Well, I have a question for Phil. What's the update on the SAAA?
Oh. I'll ask. Do you have any updates?
I don't know that they've actually met in the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks, so I'm not sure what's going on.
That's what Ivan bring.
Yeah.
Ivan's been away, but he's back now, so like
Yeah.
if that were a break, it would pick up again.
Yeah, he was in Dubai.
Yeah.
Second question, I guess I had another previous question to the president. What's the update on the Greek Collective Council SUMOU?
Then the VP, that, the Greek life, can I answer that? or-
We want to hear the student union side of the operation, what they've had discussions recently.
If she has, that hasn't been shared at a VP director level to us yet,
Yeah,
so whatever's happening,
Okay,
to my knowledge, is.
We'll get back to you with that.
Yeah,
perfect. Can we hear your side of the story, Mr. VP?
There is, so originally when it was presented, it was pretty well and dandy, no real problems, but had a lot of our member organizations, once they were allowed to look at the proposed document. There's a specific point in that where they're asking for a little more of an extensive background check on the academics and the like disciplinary actions taken on members of the Greek life, members on Greek life that aren't expected of other clubs. And I don't think there's much wiggle room on her end that she's willing to do with that, and there's not a ton on our end that we're willing to.
Okay, so I'm going to share a comment to both sides, please meet at the table and then come to a reasonable conclusion for both of us, as it is necessary for the student union and the Greek Life Council to be able to cooperate on specific matters that we need to cooperate on.
That is the plan.
Awesome, on to the spring summer term financial report.
Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Turner. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration for the Student Union. So I come to these meetings 2, 3, 4 times a year to present financial updates as to where we are at any given point in time. So the numbers that Warren's just thrown up on the screen, they are for the 3 months ended July 31st. So our fiscal year starts May 1st, runs to April 30th. So I'm showing you the first quarter of the year. Ideally, I would have liked to have brought August as well, so you would have had the entire summer picture. We just didn't have August close when the mail out of these results happened. So what we're looking at is July. So Orland, why don't we, if you go to the statement of revenues, and we'll start there with that one. So a few things first, just from a formatting perspective, even though these revenues are showing up as negatives in brackets, those are just because they're credits in our financial system. Those are actually the money we've brought in. So for example, the first line, it's the building fee we received for the Fred Nichols Campus Center to the end of July. We brought in $286,000 on a budget of $179,000, so it's $106,000 favorable. For the summer months, and just so you understand how we work, we have very little revenue actually coming in May to August. The only revenue we get are some fees from students that are enrolled in the spring terms, both here and in Brantford. We do some catering in Wilfs that generates revenue. There's some other fees, that governance and student fees. When each of you have paid your tuition, you've seen there's a health and wellness fee, an academic support fee, a campus safety fee, a recreation fee, etc. So that's what that $200,000 is. There's a Brantford building fee that the Brantford students pay that brought in $22,000. So again, not much in revenues in the summertime. So for the first 3 months in total, we've brought in $617,000. August, there wouldn't be much more than that other than catering revenue and Wilfs activity. So really low revenues in the summertime, and it's just how our cash flow works. So if we want to go to expenses, and I'll open this up for questions after, obviously. So for the same period to the end of July, we've actually incurred $1.5 million of expenses. So even though there's not a lot of revenue coming in, we're still paying for this building. We're paying, so that first number there, the Fred Nichols Campus Center, that's where a lot of the staffing costs are held, all the operating costs for this building. Health and dental, that's health and dental claims that have been paid out to undergrad students who have submitted a claim for dental or physiotherapy or eyewear, whatever it is. In those 3 months, we paid out $465,000 in claims, but we don't get any revenue for that until the fall and the winter. Wilfs to operate in the summer cost us $113,000. And down the list, the other big numbers there are the governance and stakeholder relations number, that 50,000, that's our USA membership. We paid that out in the summertime under services and programming and Brantford activities. That's money we've started to pay out in the summertime for OWeek. OWeek's quite expensive to run. And we start paying the bills in typically late June, early July. So there's a lot of money for that there. Brantford Student Center admin fees, that expense line is salaries of the Brantford staff and the money required to run the Brantford building. So we're under budget on expenses, which is good. And if you go back to the first statement, the statement of operations. So as I said, we had 617,000 in revenue for the first 3 months. We had 1.5 million in expenses for the first 3 months. So our deficit to the end of that period is $936,000. Now, before any of you get alarmed at that number, that's the way it's always been since this organization has existed since the 70s. We always run a deficit in the summertime. I think for those of you that were on the board last year when I presented those numbers, I think it was about 880,000 or something around that number. So I don't want you to be alarmed by that number. In the fall, we get a couple $1 million in fees. We get a couple $1 million in health and dental fees. So next time I'm back here, I suspect that the numbers I'll show you are pretty close to balanced at that point in time. And then we get more money for the winter semester. And so when I come here after the winter semester, we'll be hopefully in a surplus position or at least a balanced position at that point. So it's just the nature of this operation, very little revenues in the summer. A big chunk of revenue comes in October, November. A big chunk of revenue comes in January and February. And then that's how we operate. So we're doing well compared to our budget so far, so that's good news. But again, we are in a deficit position. We do have cash in the bank to cover that deficit, so it's not like we had to borrow money or we had to defer paying bills because we didn't have cash in the bank. We've got lots of cash in the bank. And that's carried over from last year's surplus and from last year's activities. So I'll leave it at that and open it up for questions.
All right, questions. Director Corey.
Just one question, and I don't kind of know the extent of the answer you can provide in an open session. But is there money being put away in kind of preparation for the FNCC facilities update, or kind of, I know that's been put on pause a little bit, but are we preparing money for it or?
Yes, so there's a couple things going on right now for those of you that are new to the board. And I think Phil's probably updated you at some points in the past about how the university has come to us and asked to pay a big chunk of money for the air handling system for this building. So we have money set aside already.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I didn't want you to think it was someone who was trying to play a trick on you, because I have 3 apple trees out there. And those are still have to wash some of them, but those
Director
some
Muller,
get approved. But it's because you're up on the top, and when I shake the tree, it came down, but
Might have to just.
that was a beautiful outpost.
Okay.
So we're gonna put some more money away, because we do have surplus cash. And part of our plan moving forward is, because ultimately, whatever ends up happening, we're probably going to have to borrow some money to be able to afford that. So we'll need a source of cash every year ongoing to meet the principal and interest payment on whatever that loan ends up being. So we need to make sure we have a dedicated source of cash for that every year. And we do have some loans right now that are ending, and one just ended actually last year. So our goal is to, if we take that money that we're using for that loan, hopefully we can set it aside for this. So yes, definitely it's on our radar.
Okay. Director Hamilton, you got a question?
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering, can you explain the Golden Ground? Is that just like maintenance of like?
So, yeah, so Golden Grounds, and for those of you that don't know, it's a coffee kiosk that we operate in Brantford. It only opens September to early April, and then we shut it down for the year. So there are there's no revenues in the summer, and the costs that you probably see there, that's some maintenance costs that they incurred over the summer to get it ready to operate for the fall. So it typically, I think this year it opened the second week of September. It's not a big revenue generator anyway. I think it maybe pulls in about $75,000-$80,000 in revenue a year. So.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? I have a couple of questions. I was wondering why we didn't get in this financial update, like, a breakdown of our assets and liabilities.
Like balance sheet.
Yes.
Good question. We've just never done it historically in the past. So if it's something the board would like to see, I can definitely bring that
Yes.
next time. So
Yes, please.
yeah, for sure.
That's number one. Number two, I see that although the variance is in our favor,
Yeah.
A lot of variance means that we're not really following the budget. What's the potential reason? Like some of a couple of things that kind of came across my mind when I was just looking at it, like the president's office didn't spend as much, but then we spent a lot more. We didn't spend any like half on the Brantford BSD. Or we spent like double what we were expecting for services and programming. That type of like high variance on some of those items is a little scary.
So I can speak to that. So it's a little bit of everything. So in the case of services and programming, it just meant that we incurred more costs earlier in the budgeting or in the planning process for OWEEK than we anticipated. Rather than incurring a lion's share of the costs in August, it was more weighted towards June and July, and the budget didn't really reflect that. Traditionally, we've spent more moving out to the end of the year. As all of you know, our main entertainer for the OWEEK was fairly expensive. And so that's also reflected in that number because we had to pay a down payment on that concert very early on. So that's in that number and part of the issue. What doesn't reflect here is the ticket sales that we made for that concert, and they'll show up in September. I think, do you remember we had to sell 4,200 tickets or something, 4,800 to break even, I think, on that concert. And I think we ended up selling 53 or 5,400. So it basically paid for itself, which was good to see. So that's an example of that one. Some of the ones, like you had mentioned, the Brantford Student Center, it's probably more a reflection of us weighting the budget too heavily to the summertime when we probably really didn't need to. So that's something we can look at moving, but from my perspective, there's nothing in those variances right now that stands out. The one I will point to on the expense one though, is if you look at health and dental.
Yes. Okay.
We're significantly under our claims, which is both good and bad. It's good because that means that we've got lots of money that we've collected from students to pay for health and dental claims that we're not having to use, because we don't want to be in the other situation where claims are higher than premiums. But it also means, and this has been an issue post-COVID, that students just haven't been using the health and dental plan like they were pre-COVID. During COVID, when all the dental clinics shut down and the physiotherapy clinic shut down and there was no use, for whatever reason, that just hasn't come back. And we also increased the fees as well to help offset costs because they've gone up dramatically. So that's part of the issue. When I bring the audited statements for last year, you will see that'll be in the next few months. You'll see a big surplus last year overall for the health and dental plan as well.
So on that note, could we be potentially looking at in doing some plan improvements to bring back some of that value to our owners?
Yes, so we added some new services last year. We had a meeting a couple months ago, I think, to look at adding other options. So I'll give you this isn't the actual number, but for say you're allowed to buy you get $300 or something for eyewear every 18 months. So, and something that we might have considered is, well, let's do that every 12 months instead of 18 months, and a bunch of little things like that. So that's definitely being considered. And I think at some point in the year, there's a health and dental presentation to this board, I think, but I'm not sure.
The last question, I promise.
Yeah.
Since we don't have a balance sheet, what are we doing to, I guess, take advantage of the higher interest rates, environment that we're in right now with term deposits, T-bills, et cetera, et cetera.
So again, most of you aren't aware, but we have a fairly robust cash flow position right now, to the point that we have millions of dollars in the bank. So given the higher interest rate environment, I took $2 million that we've got and I invested it in a laddered GIC portfolio. So 500 was 120 days and 500 was 170 days, etc. So those are all just maturing as we speak. I think there's one of them matures next week or the week after. So as they mature, if it doesn't look like we need that cash right away, I'm just going to re-roll them over again into new GICs. So, and I'm trying to remember what the interest rate was, but it was significantly better. Like in the pre-2023, even 2022, we made more money just on our leaving the money sitting in our bank account on interest than we would in any really safe investment like a GIC or a T-bill. So, but now we can really definitely take advantage of that. So that's my plan. And as long as, so I'll give you another example. We're looking at a fairly major renovation to Wilf's downstairs. So we've set aside, this board approved us to set aside $1 million for that last year. So that $1 million is currently right now sitting in a GIC because we don't need it right now to do anything.
Yeah, it helps, offset the cost of inflation, right?
Yeah.
And bring some revenue. Okay, are there any more questions? I see a hand, I just can't see where it is.
There's a cover there.
A hand from the Brantford boardroom, or is that Director Spitzeri?
We both do, but
Both.
whoever wants to go first, I'm all good.
Director Spitzeri.
We've been waiting longer.
So just kind of looking through it, one thing that kind of struck me as interesting is Wilf somehow had considerably higher revenue than expected, but also considerably lower costs. Just like looking through that, how does that work? Because usually it's like, okay, you just have more staff, more food going out. How do you way overshoot costs, but way undershoot revenue?
So I'll give you guys a little bit of background on Wilf. So last year was a not good year for Will. So out of COVID, we had 3 years of students or 2.5 years of students who'd never really been on campus. A lot of people didn't even know the restaurant was there. When we opened last year, we had 5 returning staff. And it was a very slow open. It was like opening a brand new restaurant. Our hours even were limited for the first month to just lunchtime. So last year was a poor year. So our budget was pretty conservative this year. Having said that, we're really pleased with how things have gone. We, over the summer period, we tripled our catering revenue. We had about 75 employees back this year versus 5 last year. So it's not like opening a brand new restaurant. And right from the get-go on the Saturday night of move-in, we opened the restaurant for 11, 12 hours a day. And so we're going full bore. One of the biggest shares of revenue that I can monitor on a daily basis is one card revenue. Because that's one of the preferred methods of payment down there. And it also has tripled on a weekly period for the first 3 weeks of the year versus last year. So that's the revenue piece. And then for those of you that, I don't know if any of you worked in hospitality, but margins are pretty tight. The one way you can make money in hospitality, or you have to, if you want to make money, is you really have to control your staffing. So if the restaurant's not busy, you don't need as much staffing. You don't want people standing around, and they're doing a really good job this year of controlling costs. So there's kind of that 2-factor to that too, is the revenues are way up over last year. I'll give you to the end of August last year. I think we were already in a deficit of 180,000. This year to the end of August. And again, Wilfs is always in a deficit in the summer because there's not many people around. This year, I think the deficit to the end of the summer was 55,000. So a lot better, and we should be able to dig ourselves out pretty quickly if the numbers keep going like they have been for the first month. So quite happy with how it's gone so far.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Sorry, just before you move on from that, is 55 inclusive of the winter term?
Say that again.
Is the 55,000 deficit inclusive of the winter term? Because right now it just looks like it's 96 in revenue, like 113 in costs. So like that would be like 15,000, which is really better.
The 96 that you see there in revenue is just for May, the months of May, June, and July. And of that 96,000, I don't have it right in front of me, but I bet 85,000 of that is just from catering. The restaurant itself wasn't open much in the summer. I think they did some of the what's the baseball.
The
MSLB had a few nights there that it was open as a restaurant, but it's almost all catering in the summertime.
Does that answer your question, Director Kuzari?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Thank you.
I saw a hand in the Brantford boardroom. Is there still a question there?
Yeah, just a quick question on the pay restitution or pay analysis thing. Kind of in the event that comes back with, hey, we need to start paying people more compared to market rates. Have we been putting aside money kind of for in the event that happens, or kind of how, in terms of finances, how have we been preparing for that report to come down?
There is money set aside in this year's budget for that. Hopefully, whatever ends up happening out of that, it would cover all that. If it doesn't cover all that, then we would have to look at maybe holding some positions in a vacant situation longer than we would intend to cover any budget shortfalls. But I think we should be okay. And to that point, not exactly related, but most of you are probably aware that the minimum wage as of October 1st went up about $1.05 an hour. So we had budgeted for that. And for all those employees that are paid at the minimum wage level, which is for most of the WELF staff and the UDES staff, who I'm in the process of bumping those people up. So that's all budgeted for as well.
Any more questions, Director Corey?
And just to follow up on kind of leaving the positions vacant. I know kind of currently, especially in the marketing department, we have a big problem with being understaffed. Kind of, if we are put in the position where we have to hold positions vacant, and this may be kind of more of a question to fill at a later date, but how does that affect kind of our ability to operate meaningfully for students?
I think if it ever came to that situation where we were jeopardizing the services that we should be providing and are intended to provide to the student, I don't think we would hold a vacancy any longer than we would need to. And in that case, we would fill a position and look to find savings from a non-labor category, whatever that would be. But no, the intention would never be to jeopardize those activities by holding positions vacant.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's been super helpful.
Okay, perfect. Any more questions for the Director of Finance and Administration? Okay, as I see none, we will now move into the second. We will now move into Direct Inspection Committee elections. We will first start off with EL2E. Directors, I would recommend that you open your agenda packages and see and go over the policy and see if you're interested in either nominating or being nominated. Are there any other nominations for the EL2E direct inspection committee? This is where directors would nominate other directors that they think would be competent to be on this committee. Director Slow.
Let's nominate Director Baldwin.
Director Baldwin, do you stand?
Sure. I do stand.
All right. You don't put your hand there, but yes. Any other nominations? Director Hamilton?
Can you just talk about like the major difference between the other committee we talked about before, the financial?
So this is different. This is
Yeah.
different than the finance committee. This is the committee that
Just inspection of.
that inspects this current policy as it is written and comes up with a recommendation if it needs
Okay.
any.
I'd like to nominate Director Rubinoff.
Director Rubinoff, you stand? Vice Chair Rubinoff.
Vice Chair Rubinoff.
You stand?
Yeah.
Vice Chair. Director Bill.
I'd like to nominate Director Mahari.
Director Mahari, do you stand?
I stand.
Okay. I believe, Orland, it's three. It's three directors, right? Right, Orland? There's three directors.
Last one, then with that.
For the DIC, is that correct?
Precedent.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other nominations for EL2E? Going once, going twice. All right, we'll now move into ratifying the vote. Right? Can I get a motion on the table to acclaim Vice Chair Rubinoff, Director Baldinelli, and Director Mahari to the EL2E Direct Inspection Committee, Director Hamilton and Director Sloan? We'll now move into vote. Any discussion on the matter? As I see none, we'll now move into voting. Any opposition? Any abstentions? All those in favor? You don't vote. No, there you go. The motion, is Director Baldwin voting yes? I can't see.
Yeah, the camera's being weird.
Okay, the motion passes 0 to 11. On to the direct inspection committee election for GP2C. Can I get nominations for this committee? Director,
Nominate Director Sloan.
Director Sloan, do you stand?
I do.
Vice Chair Rubinoff.
I'd like to nominate Director Corey.
Director Corey, do you stand?
I do not.
Okay, it's not. Nominations? Director Corey,
I'd like to nominate Director Baldwin.
Director Baldwin, do you stand?
I stand.
We need one more. One more nomination. Director Phillips,
I'd like to nominate Director Hamilton.
Director Hamilton, do you stand?
No, I do not.
Director Hamilton does not stand. I need one more nomination.
I'd like to nominate Director Phillips.
Director Phillips, do you stand?
I do not say.
Come on,
guys.
direct inspection, it's like one.
It takes, it's literally 10 minutes, 20 minutes tops. It's very easy just to get involved in the process.
I'd like to nominate Director Rubin, or Vice Chair Rubin.
They're nominating.
I'd like to nominate Director Ellis, do you stand?
I don't stand.
Order. I need one more nomination for this election. You can nominate yourself,
I'd like to nominate Director Spitzeri.
Director Spitzeri. Do you stand?
Is anybody else an option? Or am I? an option?
We're an eager board.
Fine, I'll do it. I'll do it. I accept.
Okay,
There.
we'll now move into the motion. Can I get a motion to acclaim Director Spitzeri, Vice Chair Rubinoff, and, oh wait, never mind.
Sari, me and.
Yeah, Director Sloan,
Mitchell. Well,
Oh, yes.
Director Baldwin, and Vice Chair Rubinoff. Yeah. Okay. Motions, Director.
It's Director Sloan, Director Baldwin, and Director Spitzeri.
Yes, no, yes.
Yes.
Hold on, restart. Can I get a motion to acclaim Director Sloan, Director Baldwin, and Director Spitzeri to the GP2C Direct Inspection Committee, Director Phillips and Director Hamilton. Seconds, any discussion on the matter? Okay, as I see none, we'll now move into voting. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Director Spitzeri, Director Corey, you abstain?
No, I think.
Okay.
it's way ahead of
What? I can't hear you.
I think all those in favor.
Oh, so Director Spitzeri abstains. All those in favor? The motion passes 0 to 1 to 10. Thank you so much. We'll now move into the in-camera session. Can I get a motion that the Board of Directors proceed to the in-camera session? What? Wait, what? What? I can't hear you. Oh, can I get a motion that the Board of Directors proceed to an in-camera session with the invitation to the VP of is it finance?
Financial and volunteer services.
Oh.
Finance and volunteer services, what?
Financial and volunteer operations. Thank you for knowing.
Financial and volunteer operations, Director Muller, and governance coordinator, and the governance coordinator. Can I get somebody motion that Vice Chair and Director Hamilton? Any questions on the matter? Okay, as I see none, we'll now move into voting. Any abstention, any opposition?
Thank you.
Any abstention? All those in favor? Have a good night, Director
See you later.
Turner. The motion passes 0